Hello everybody! So it's been a few months since Avengers Endgame came out, and there's still a few questions that still need answering. So I'm going to attempt to answer some of these questions. Maybe everyone had them, maybe just I had them. Maybe there'll just be some plot holes and problems that I'll fix. Oh, and by the way, I don't know if the directors or Kevin Feige or anyone already answered some of these questions. Mostly because 90% of the videos that say, Avengers Endgame directors confirm huge theory. Mostly just turned out to be somebody saying that somebody speculated about something for no reason other than that anything can happen. So anyway, these are just going to be my interpretations of the events of the movie. Let's go. Alright, number one. How the heck does time travel work in this movie? The most frequently asked question about this movie. This has been something that has confused pretty much universally everyone ever since Endgame came out. So I'm going to tell you how I view time travel in this movie. Let's go. Alright, so this is how time travel works in Avengers Endgame. So let's say that this is the original timeline, and they are right here in 2023. They go back to 2012, and they create a branch reality pretty much immediately. Now, if they want to go back in time again, like when they went back to the 1970s, they went back to the 1970s of the original timeline. If they wanted to go forward in time, they'd be going forward in time in the original timeline. They wouldn't be going forward in time to there, they'd be going to there. And then, once they want to go back to their point of origin, they just put in to their time travel GPS thing the time and the place, and then you go back to 2023. Next, was Captain America always worthy? Now, if you don't know what this question is actually asking, what it's talking about is, I don't know, this little scene, it wasn't really that important. It was just, Cap caught Mjolnir. So there are two theories going around about this one. The first one, which is the one that I believe, is that, yeah, he was always worthy. And in that scene in Age of Ultron where they're all trying to pick up Thor's hammer, he didn't pick it up purely out of respect for Thor. But there's another theory going around that he wasn't able to lift it because of his guilt from not telling Tony that Bucky killed his parents. But he did seem to budget, and I don't think that Mjolnir works on a scale like, oh, you're only 95% worthy, so you only get to barely budget. Oh, and you sold evil weapons to people for like 20 years, so why wasn't it Clint that jumped? Alright, so I think after watching Avengers Endgame, a lot of people, including me, wondered why they had Natasha jump instead of Clint. I mean, he did all those bad stuff for 5 years, and it would have been an easy way for them to, not have to deal with the fact that killing a bunch of people for 5 years would, have a lot of repercussions and stuff. But when I started thinking about it, it actually made more sense that it was Natasha. Because she was always the Avenger that was always trying to prove to herself that she could actually be more than the assassin she was made to be, and be an actual hero. So it was fitting that both she and Tony, who had also been struggling with trying to prove that he could be a hero, were the two that sacrificed themselves. And if you look back at what Red Skull actually said that you have to do to obtain the Soul Stone, he said,
"In order to take the stone, you must lose that which you love."
And if we look at Clint for a second, he had lost his whole family. He had lost everything, and he went crazy because of it for 5 years. But then who was the one that brought him back? Natasha! And I think that if this whole thing happened with his family not dead, I probably would have had more of a problem with her being the thing that he loved the most. Because she was the only thing that he had left. In that moment, she was the one that he loved the most. And that's why she had to be the one that jumped. Wow, that got real deep, real fast, and real long. Let's go to the next one. What exactly did Cap do at the end of the movie? Alright, so here's what Cap did. Here he is in 2023. Goes back, let's say to 2012, puts back the Time Stone, the Space Stone, and the Mind Stone. Then he goes to 2013, puts back the Reality Stone, and then goes to 2014, and puts back the Soul Stone and the Power Stone. So then, he decides to go to 1940s, and creates a branch reality where he lives his life with Peggy. So at some point, I don't know, maybe when Peggy dies, he decides, alright, I'm gonna go to 2023 at the moment I left, and I'm gonna give my shield to Sam. So, he puts 2023 in the place where he left from into his time GPS thing. And he doesn't go to 2023 there. He goes to 2023 in the original timeline. And that's when we see him sitting on the bench and he talks to Sam, then gives him the shield. And that's what Cap did at the end of Avengers Endgame. Why was Captain Marvel so underused? Now, I think that this question isn't really why she was underused in Avengers Endgame, it's that why was she so hyped up for Avengers Endgame? Because really, in the context of the story of Avengers Endgame, she was actually used perfectly. Because she really wouldn't have worked in the time heist because unlike everybody else, excluding Scott, she didn't have any encounter with the Infinity Stones that actually mattered. I mean, I guess you could argue that she had an encounter with the Tesseract in Captain Marvel, and they could have went back to sometime during Captain Marvel to get it. But if you had to choose between going back to Captain Marvel or going back to the final battle of Avengers, I mean, I think what people are actually getting mad about was that she was implied to be this really powerful character that was going to play a big role in Avengers Endgame. And the end result was kind of anticlimactic. Don't get me wrong, I do realize that she did take down Thanos' entire ship base thing, turning the whole tide of the battle, and that was awesome. But it was also the first time seeing her in like 2 hours. I actually think that it would have been better if that was the first time we saw her in the movie. I'm not really sure how they would have made it make sense that she was responding to a message that Nick Fury sent 5 years earlier, but they probably could have figured it out somehow. Alright, sorry, I just had to switch cameras because the battery on my one that I've been using just died. I don't have another battery for it, so we'll just keep going. So what they should have had was, Infinity War, Nick Fury's dusting, right before he dusts, he sends the message to Captain Marvel. And then, in the post-credit scene of Captain Marvel, we see her get the message, and then dust. And then, so she's not in the beginning of Avengers Endgame, and they just have Tony get back to Earth in a different way. And the rest of the movie just goes how it did. They bring all the dusted characters back, they get attacked, and then all the dusted characters that we knew pretty well previously, we see them come through all the portals and stuff. And then right when it looks like that they're about to lose, Captain Marvel comes in and does the same thing. She takes down Thanos' ship base thing. Wow, that would have been really cool. And I wish they did that. Why did they pick the times that they did? I've heard people say things like, why didn't they just go back to the Garden when Thanos already had the Infinity Stones in the Gauntlet? An element, I was one of them, if you watched my Woody's Iron Man video, or they could have actually went to the Garden where Thanos had the Infinity Stones and already in the Gauntlet for a few days. So, which you should go see that video if you haven't already. Just do that after you watch this video then. But then I realized that they'd be fighting a Thanos with Infinity Stones, which they already proved that they couldn't do with twice the amount of people. And now you might be saying, but weren't they able to do that at the beginning of the movie? But remember, they are fighting a Thanos without Infinity Stones because he destroyed them, and a very injured Thanos from the strain of snapping twice, which he says,
It nearly killed me.
I also figured out why the times they were picked were really the perfect times to do it. So let's start with the first one and the easiest one. New York, 2012. That's been pretty easy because there's 3 stones in the same place at the same time, which they explain in the movie.
Shut the front door.
Next is Morag, 2014. For the Power Stone. Now, they could have went to Xandar, where it was since Guardians of the Galaxy, but then they would have had to sneak past the Nova Corps, and it's just easier to just go somewhere where it's not guarded. And they picked 2014 because they needed Star-Lord to show them where it was.
So he's an idiot.
Then, Asgard 2013. Now, they could have went to nowhere anytime between 2013 and 2018. Then they probably would have ran into the same problems that they would have had if they went to Xandar for the Power Stone. And just easier to just go to Asgard to find Jane, who they know has the Reality Stone in her because,
she stuck her hand inside a rock this one time. And then the ether stuck itself inside her.
To be honest, it probably is also more of an out-of-universe thing where it's like they didn't want to go back to nowhere after they did that in Infinity War. And then Vormir 2014. 2014 because they already had a group going to 2014 and they didn't want to have a separate group going to a separate time when it didn't matter. And former because that's just where you go to get the Soul Stone. Wouldn't Cap would run into a lot of problems about putting back the Infinity Stones? So there's been a lot of talk about how Cap would run into a lot of problems about putting back the Infinity Stones. Like having to inject the Reality Stone back into Jane.
And then the ether stuck itself inside her.
And also the Mind Stone not being in scepter form. But really, when you think about it, he wouldn't actually have to do any of that. Because if you look back at what the Ancient One actually says, she says that if you take one Infinity Stone from that reality, it will create an evil branch reality. And that you must bring the Infinity Stone back to when you took it. Not in the same form, not to the same person, not injected into a person that it was previously ejected out of.
Stuck itself inside her.
Not even where. All that matters is when. So technically Cap could just leave the Infinity Stone anywhere that he wanted to as long as it was exactly when it was taken. So anyway, that was 7 Avengers Endgame questions answered. I hope you learned something, maybe think of Avengers Endgame a little differently, but overall, I just hope that this video just enhanced your enjoyment of an already epic and awesome movie. And that's a wrap.